2020 Monte Sereno Better Streets Commission. Before the meeting is called to order, I would like to point out a few house rules to assist commissioners, staff, and members of the public to successfully participate in this meeting. Commissioners, your microphone is live, so please keep your microphones on mute until you wish to speak. For tonight's meeting, we are using Zoom to host the commission meeting. At the bottom of the Zoom client, there are two icons, chat and raise hand. Please use chat only to report technical issues such as being unable to hear a commissioner speaking. Please use the raise hand icon to be recognized by the chair and enabled to speak to the commission. To comment under oral communication or on any agenda item, you're allowed 3 minutes to speak per agenda items. Emails limited to 350 words can be submitted to the city clerk and it will be read into the record. The word limit is set to adhere to the typical 3-minute time allowance. Only attendees using the Zoom application can use the raise hand option to comment. Participants calling in from a telephone will only be able to listen and cannot provide feedback or public comment. Lastly, because we are all not in the same room, all votes at this meeting will be taken by roll call. And I will call roll. Commissioner Chapin.
Here.
Commissioner Levine. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's an old list.
That you are correct. That is an old list. So Commissioner Chapin is here. Commissioner Saxena. Commissioner Saxena, I think you're on mute, but I know you are here.
I'm here. Sorry, Michelle.
No problem. Commissioner Peth.
I'm here, thanks.
You're welcome. Commissioner Pearson. Not present. And Commissioner Arushi Saxena is not present as well. And Commissioner Nelson.
Here.
And we have a quorum.
Thank you, Michelle. So the meeting this evening is a continuation from the October 8th meeting. And the two items that we have are Bruce Avenue improvements, the continued discussion of that. And at this point in time, I would like to turn it over to Chair Chafin to bring us into the discussion.
All right,
I'm assuming you want to take up where we left off. I will say that I met with Commissioner Nelson and Commissioner Peth out there about a month ago, and we looked at the intersection and we discussed some ideas, and they can elaborate on what we discussed. I think they were good ideas, but there's definitely room for improvement out there. So let us begin.
All right. Well, I'll call the meeting to order at 7:05. We've already done roll call, and we have been bypassing the pledge. I'm just curious, Steve, has the council been bypassing the Pledge of Allegiance in their remote meetings?
Yes, we have been. And you know, in the beginning when we started doing that, we figured it wasn't going to be forever. But you bring up a good point. I think moving forward, we should find a solution for that so we can all start doing the pledge, because we might be doing this for another 6 months at the rate we're going. So I will come up with a solution so we can maybe point a camera at the flag or something.
All right. I'd just like to follow the lead of the council. So I just wondered what they were doing, because I haven't been to any meetings in a while.
Yes, there has been no Pledge of Allegiance since March 2nd or 3rd, something like that.
All right. Well, moving on to orders of the day. Does anybody have any requests to change the agenda? That would be part of orders of the day. Okay, I didn't hear anything. Do we have any oral or written communication from the public?
We have not received any. Thank you.
So we need to from our last meeting to
Had a chance to review them, and I was wondering if I could get someone to make a proposal that we approve those meetings as written.
I'll make the motion. This is Commissioner Nelson. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the October 8th meeting.
And could somebody second that?
I'll second.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you, Charlemagne.
And we'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Chapin,
Yes.
Commissioner Saxena,
Yes.
Commissioner Peth? You're on mute.
Yes.
And Commissioner Nelson.
Yes.
And the motion passes.
Thank you. All right, so I guess we can move on to Bruce Avenue, where my recollection is we gave Jessica some feedback, and Doreen and Joanne were gonna go out to the site and study it a little more. And it sounds like a lot has happened since then. So would somebody like to share that with the rest of us?
Joanne, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure, I can. So Doreen and I met, I guess we've been out there 2 or 3 times now and kind of looked at it. If you remember, Jessica had drawn a mock-up of Bruce Avenue improvements, including putting 2 or 3 temporary speed bumps, and we discussed that.
Mm-hmm.
She was talking about the bulb outs at the corner of Bruce and Poppy. And our recommendation was to kind of re-examine those, that they might impede traffic, that they were a little large or seemed a little large. And so Doreen and I went out there and we kind of explored some different options, looked around for some samples and some ideas. Actually, we met a neighbor while we were out there who gave us some good feedback about the people that live, I guess, to the north side on Bruce, or right off of Bruce on a court on the north side. So the side that's a dead end, and about the foot traffic and the kids that come to school from that direction and how they have some challenges crossing that same intersection, which we didn't know about, or I didn't know about anyway. And so we kind of mocked up some ideas and discussed what, the bulb outs and the crosswalks might look like there and where they might be placed, looked at the missing sidewalks and the pathways that, kids and pedestrians and bicyclists and scooters use. And then we mocked those up, and then we kind of came back and met, and Steve met us out there, and we reviewed the ideas with him and kind of showed him what we were thinking about. So that's where they are. Doreen, do you want to explain kind of what we were, I guess it would have been helpful to have the examples with us, but what we were looking at, the changes?
Well, so we were looking at specifically like enhancing the crosswalks at that intersection to make it, I think it's 3 crosswalks instead of 1. Is that correct, Joanne?
Right.
And also enhancing from the, the Sombroso, the development area, trying to see if we could get some sort of sidewalk or, something along that street that would lead to a bulb out and a safer area for students who are walking or scootering or biking to wait before they cross the intersection to the side where the school is. So we talked about, increasing the crosswalks to 3 and possibly raising the crosswalks. Joanne, you had some really nice photos, examples of raised crosswalks and crosswalks that had vibrant colors that would probably just stand out a little bit more than your normal crosswalk. We had also talked about how 2 sets of the speed bumps on Bruce would probably slow down traffic approaching, from the Winchester side of Bruce Avenue. Let's see, what else? Joanne, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, the other thing is the kind of pedestrian refuges or the bulb outs would be smaller than what we had kind of had on our mock-up sample that Jessica did for us. And we think they need to be smaller for traffic to get by, and that So it would just be expanding what is there on one side already some, but we also talked about putting, and I can't remember what the name of them are called, but the school actually has them in front of Dave's Avenue where the parents drive up to pick up their kids. They're the poles or the posts so that people cannot drive, you know, and cut across that corner and just run somebody over. And so we talked about putting probably 2 or 3 of those also, so that it would kind of create a barrier so that if somebody decides to come around the corner pretty quick, especially on the side on Dave's Avenue, Poppy and Dave's and Bruce there, that they wouldn't be, you know, taking out any kids on that corner. So it seemed like it would make it safer. So, so I think it was the 3 crosswalks, 2 across Poppy and 1 across Bruce. And, you know, highlighting them so that they were more visible, whether it's paint and there's some, Steve had some input on, you know, what was allowed for school crossings. And then, you know, possibly raising them and then some pedestrian refuge on that corner. And then finishing the sidewalk that goes along Poppy towards El Sombroso Oaks, which is, you know, that
The community.
development, yeah.
Well, we also acknowledge, I think we acknowledge that the first step to evaluating any of this would be to have survey work done so that we understood where the property owners, you know, land ended and where the town might have a right of way or an easement so that we could do some of the things that we are talking about.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt for a second? I don't understand exactly where the sidewalk you're talking about is. Is it on Poppy or on Bruce?
It's on Poppy.
From Winchester, and you made a left toward the El Sombroso Oaks, which is
Okay, okay.
on the left-hand side there, it is missing, there is no sidewalk
Got it.
until you hit the El Sombroso Oaks and then a sidewalk starts. So that's where all the kids were coming down, but they were just coming down in the street.
And there's a lot of overgrown, you know, kind of out of control vegetation where we think that the town may have access or an easement or actually, you know, have rights to that property where we could put a sidewalk and clean it up and make it much, much safer for those kids who are scootering and walking and biking through that. You know, it's almost like a cut through from El Sombroso down to Dave's Avenue.
And
So
Steve,
that-
do you have any input on, because you looked at this pretty carefully with us too.
Yeah, so I think the next step would be to consult with, you know, a design contractor, perhaps have, you know, we would have to come up with a kind of a conceptual sketch and then have a design contractor, you know, send it out for a bid and let them, you know, hire all the surveyors and determine who owns what and all those kinds of things and see what can be done. They could come back and say, well, 3 crosswalks may be overkill, but 2 are better for this reason and those kinds of things, right? But incorporate all the ideas, list all the ideas you have, meet with, of course, Jessica when she gets back in February, and then come up with a conceptual design and then have it sketched out and then send it out for a bid. It'll come back to you guys to take a look at the conceptual design and see.
Although
So Steve-
before, we're going to do, at least for most parts of this, a temporary one first and get resident feedback. I don't know if we need, were you talking about a bid for that or a bid to find out if the whole project was feasible?
Well,
I think
certainly, I think.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, certainly, I think that's a great idea to get the residents' input on it. but I believe originally, when it comes to like the temporary speed bumps being put in and then taken out and those kind of things, that was kind of a neighborhood thing. I think that the commission should, you make the recommendation to go forward with these ideas. Then the next step would be to kind of sketch it out and present it at a future meeting. This is the design, and let the residents weigh in, and then go from there with the formal bid and bid process.
So would this go along with the speed bumps, or would you consider that would we do a conceptual design for this, propose the speed bumps and then, go ahead and do the design with it? Or is the speed bumps, since they're temporary anyway, a different thing?
Haven't we
different thing.
already, I was gonna say, haven't we already met the threshold for doing the speed bumps? Because we adopted the speed bump policy, a few months ago, and, Jessica went through the criteria, and Dave's Avenue meets that, or I'm sorry, Bruce Avenue meets that criteria. So I thought we had already met the criteria for installing the temporary speed bumps. I thought that the intersection work on Poppy is, I guess, for lack of a better word, like a second proposal or a second, item.
They could
That
be
is
treated
correct.
that way.
I think so, as to, not complicate things, keep the speed bumps separately, and that's relatively straightforward, relatively easy. Those can be done, more rapidly. The intersection design, we may, come up with a concept, present it, and it could be one of those things that it comes back and they say, well, they need $250,000 or $300,000, and it might be a funding situation. So I think keeping the speed bumps moving forward as already planned is the right way to go, and keep the intersection as a whole separate
I would agree.
project.
Yeah, that makes sense to me too.
Okay, sounds good.
I believe
Yes,
that
with the,
the speed bumps that Jessica was going to do some neighborhood outreach or something before the temporary ones went in. I believe she had some feedback on that process.
that is correct. And I believe she sent out notification and the neighborhood voted to have the temporary speed bumps installed. They need to get a 70% of the neighbor buy-in, and I believe that did occur. So I believe that is a done deal to go forward with those temporary speed bumps. Now, Commissioner Peth and Commissioner Nelson, when we met out there was a little bit of discussion among us that if we were going to be putting, say, a traffic bulb out in certain place, it might not be a good idea to have the speed bump too close to the Poppy Bruce intersection, because it might be better to move it further away from that intersection.
Right,
But
and we also said if it was a raised crosswalk, that might kind of act as a speed bump too, if they're.
yes. But I think, with what was put forth in the original proposal, we can just go that way. And again, they will be temporary at this point anyway. So we can calm down the speed. The neighbors, the residents like it, then they can be made permanent. By that time, when that would occur, we will be further down the road with this design on this intersection, so we will know what and where to place the permanent speed bumps.
So is that design mock-up something that you can do in-house, or how does that happen?
So we will probably have to hire a agency to do that. I will consult with Jessica on that because it needs to be drafted, formally drafted and measured and surveyed and all those kinds of things. So we'd consult with an outside traffic engineer firm to do that. And we probably would have to, depending on the cost of the design of the whole intersection, we might have to send out an RFP just to get the design work done, because some of the improvements, well, the improvements are quite substantial to that area. We were talking about, adding that sidewalk from El Sombroso Oaks all the way to the corner of Poppy and Bruce. And we were talking about a couple bulb outs and some 3 crosswalks and potentially a raised crosswalk. So all that could amount to quite a bit of money. And we want to, how can I say it? Design it in such a way where we can save as much cost as possible. But we also want to get the full effect of what the commission is envisioning. So.
Yeah, and I just want to remind everybody that when Doreen and I, when we did the Dave's Avenue school project and, surveyed the school traffic, this was where, it was just, we were pretty amazed at how many kids, parents, scooters, bikes, walkers there were, and just how they couldn't see the cars couldn't see them. And it's an accident waiting to happen with the kids coming down that hill on no sidewalk. So,
And all the times we've been out there, there have been neighbors or parents that have been pretty vocal saying that they're really happy we're addressing this issue. So I think there is a lot of support in the neighborhood for improving this because it's kind of desperately needed.
This is one of the most important intersections in town, in the city, I should say. Especially when it comes to school safety of the children. It gets a lot of traffic, bicyclists, pedestrians. For some reason, they come out of everywhere all at that same time. So this is definitely a point of focus, and then slowing down the traffic on Bruce Avenue is a good idea.
So what is the next step that we as a commission can propose so we can keep the ball rolling and moving on this?
So what I recommend is someone can make a motion. You can all vote on it to move forward with the intersection design improvements at Bruce and Poppy to commission a conceptual drawing or design on that. And, Commissioner Nelson, Commissioner Peth, I'm assuming that the other commissioners are on board with of the ideas that you came up with, and or if you want to describe back and forth and get into more detail on that now, you could, or you can kind of just have them vote on it and then put into writing what the description of what the improvements are, and we can start going forward with the ideas.
I can't
with
speak.
The conceptual drawing.
I can't speak for Shalami, but I mean, we have talked about this quite a bit. So, and it's not a huge change from what we talked about before. So it makes perfect sense to me, what they're describing.
Yeah, I agree with that. We have been discussing it for like a year now, and both the commissioners have done a lot of survey and have put in a lot of work in that. So I agree with their suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, if somebody wanted to step up and make a motion, and then we can vote on it, we'll do a roll call vote. And that would be, to me, the next logical step is put the ideas on paper and notify the neighborhood, send it out
So
for.
would this be a recommendation that we do it, or make a recommendation that we propose to the town council that they agree that we do it? I mean, is this something that we as a commission can just say we should do, or does the town council need to be the one who moves this forward?
Well, the town council or the city council would actually have to move it forward formally. But I would say the recommendation at this point would be to move forward with a conceptual design process to come up with the proposed intersection improvements at Bruce and Poppy as proposed by the commission. And from there, we can take the results of that vote.
Steve, we lost you.
I think, are you on mute?
Steve, I think you're on mute.
Oops. Well, we could go ahead and we'll wait for Steve to come back. Go ahead and somebody
Okay.
make a motion.
Okay, I will, this is Doreen, I will try to make a motion that we move forward on the design proposal for the intersection of Poppy and Bruce enhancements, and so that we can evaluate the feasibility of whether these improvements, are actionable. Joanne, you want to help me?
That sounded pretty good to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the key words he used was a conceptual design process, begin a conceptual design process for the Bruce Poppy intersection design improvements.
Perfect. Add that.
It's Michelle, I
sounds
got it.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Do we have a second?
It's Joanne, I'll second it.
Perfect. Okay. And I could do a roll call vote. Commissioner Shaven,
Yes.
Commissioner Saxena,
Yes.
Commissioner Peth,
Yes,
and Commissioner Nelson.
Yes.
And the motion passes.
A practical question for Steve. I think he came back.
Yes.
Will this primarily wait for Jessica to return?
She'll be back before we know it, but
Okay,
yes.
yeah. I mean, I think it's good because she's been very involved and she's doing a great job. So I'm actually not excited about, hiring people or anything like that without her involvement.
I agree. We have a very capable replacement, Jen Chen, who's been filling in for her. But because this is a big project, it's an important project, she's very familiar with the whole issue going past, going back a couple of years. We'll just wait for February for her to return. And we also, of course, are appointing one new commissioner, I believe, at the end of December. So you'll have somebody new on your committee as well, or your commission as well. So we'll have an opportunity for to get this going forward when she comes back, and we'll have new participation as well.
Excellent.
just to that point, so I will be off the commission, but I'm happy to brainstorm or, come to meetings or whatever. And Doreen, you can probably keep me apprised of.
I have your number. I'll call you with questions.
Great.
Yeah,
You're not
that would-
getting away from us, Joanne.
Yeah.
You're still gonna be doing this,
You can just prod from a different chair. Yeah.
I'm going to keep her roped in until we get those improvements done.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah.
And
And
thank
we're
you
gonna
for all
miss
the
your-
work you've done on this.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, we're gonna miss your formal participation, but we'll still value your other participation.
Sounds good.
Yeah, she'll be our honorary member.
All right.
Yes,
Any more
indeed.
discussion on this? If not.
Thank you.
Yes, especially Doreen and Joanne. Thank you for all the work you've put into this.
Thank you.
Highway 9 user safety. Now, we haven't had a specific project here, Steve, just a little bit of background for you, but it's been a concern of some of us that Highway 9 needs improvements. Making improvements is super complicated because of the Caltrans involvement, et cetera. So it's a standing item on our agenda. I do have one thing that I'd like to talk about, and I don't know, I sent you an email. I don't know if you had time to look at it, Steve. It was a few weeks ago I was talking to Rob Rennie, who is in the same bicycle club I am, and also a town councilman for Los Gatos. And he told me that there was a Los Gatos project for Highway 9. And I studied their bike plan, and they have some sort of plan, there's no specifics in there, to improve the bike infrastructure from University Avenue to the western border of Monte Sereno, not the eastern border, but the western border of Monte Sereno. So obviously we want to engage with them when that moves forward, or help them move that forward, and learn more about what they're thinking.
Yes, indeed. And as you know, we're doing that joint project with them on Winchester Boulevard. And I believe that one is ahead of the Highway 9 one in the queue. However,
Yes.
it's never too early to start discussing it. Our primary focus with Highway 9 has been completing that sidewalk. And, you know, because of the pandemic, earlier in the year, it looked pretty well that we were going to be getting $500,000 from the state of California to do that. And then, of course, we had the pandemic and our budget took a hit. But we did commission to have the design done, and that's supposed to be done early 2021. Once we have the design completed, we can send it out for bidding. It may be possible that either new state funding will come, or the city council might just say, hey, we've been waiting long enough. We have money in the hat. This is where we should allocate it. I really think that in itself would be such a huge benefit for the community. When you think of course, Monte Sereno, you mentioned, we have Highway 9 and we have Winchester Boulevard. And those are the two thoroughfares that are, you know, the most heavily vehicle traveled, that would benefit the most from just having all these lingering, you know, issues erased. I think, Joanne, you know, I remember when you were on the Highway 9 Safety Commission. What was that, like 15 years ago?
Yeah.
And they had Los Gatos and Monte Sereno and Saratoga. We had these phases that we completed, and you know, obviously there was the crosswalk over there at Greenwood, and that was a big improvement for us at the time. But it wasn't a complete improvement. You know, in Los Gatos, they did the improvement up at the top of Highway 9 and Los Gatos Boulevard, and that was a big improvement, the green bike lane, but it wasn't a complete improvement. There's still gaps along the way. Saratoga also did some improvements. And if we can finish the one gap with the sidewalk in Monte Sereno to connect, you know, all the way from North Santa Cruz to, you know, Dave's Avenue, that would be splendid for us. So I would say that I'm very eager to receive the results of that design and then send it out for some bids and see what we come back with.
And that's
And
still
then I was going to mention, after all that, are there any other safety ideas that the commission has for Highway 9?
well, I mean, my pet concern is the area by Austin Way, because it had, I showed some statistics to the commission maybe a year ago that it's the most dangerous intersection in the county for bicyclists.
Yes, that is true. So even though we would get the sidewalk gap filled, that is a whole nother situation up there. And what's difficult about it is we kind of go from Monte Sereno to, I don't know if it's Los Gatos or Saratoga there at Quito, and then it goes back to Monte Sereno just around where Austin Way connects there.
I think there's some county also.
There's all kinds of stuff going on there, right? And then Austin Way is Monte Sereno, but then it definitely goes right back to Saratoga there at the corner. So I would like to see some improvement there. You know, we have the what we call it, Montalvo Oaks going in there. And when Los Gatos was putting in the North 40, and when Los Gatos put in the Netflix and these kinds of things, they put in lights when those big projects were put in. And not everybody loves a intersection with a light, but you know, that may have been an opportunity to put a light in it at the intersection when that development was going in. However, there is no light there now. So you see what's happening at the bottom of Highway 9 in the Soul, and they put in that little island there, and they're improving the safety of the crosswalk down there. They have something called a hawk, and the hawk is you are a pedestrian. You press the button and it flashes these two lights, and it basically makes everybody stop their car when on the highway. So it's not a fully signaled intersection. It's a cheaper way to do it. It was only about $250,000, but it gives an opportunity for people to cross on a highway without putting a fully signaled intersection in there. And something like that may be an opportunity up there as well on highway at Austin Way. But just some preliminary thoughts I had.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite a complicated situation, and one of the things that needs to happen is some people with engineering expertise in, that we need their counsel, because, bicycles, especially coming from Saratoga, are coming down at an incredibly high speed. And then the people from Austin Way have this limited sight line.
Mm-hmm.
So, even though I've got ideas, I really feel that we at some point need to get some outside ideas, some real experts in the area.
Yeah,
So that can be
that was
a running agenda. Commissioner Peth, I'm sorry, I spoke over you. I was going to say that can, that specific area of Highway 9, we can just say the Austin Way, Highway 9 intersection. That could be an ongoing discussion point going forward. And we could talk to Jessica about coming up with some solutions for that area. And then engaging as we mentioned, the county, the Saratoga, Los Gatos, whoever's involved up there, to try to come up with some solutions on that.
Mm-hmm. That's why I was so excited to see Los Gatos eventually plans to address that area. So with them as a partner, I think we'd be a lot more likely to accomplish something.
Yes, indeed. And they've been going after a lot of things. I mean, they're building another overpass for pedestrians off of Roberts Road. And I think they're building a connection to the trail from Highway 9 as well. So they have a lot of big projects in the hopper. But Winchester is the one that will be coming next. That one's all funded and ready to roll.
What is the best way for us to be engaged with them as they might move forward on this? A couple years ago, I used to periodically attend their bicycle and pedestrian committee meeting, which no longer exists, but now they have a different committee that takes care of those things. Do you think it'd be beneficial if we had one of our representatives went there and as an observer?
I think what we should do perhaps in the coming year is have a joint meeting with them. Mm-hmm. They have their meetings at an unusual time. I think it's something like 8 a.m. However, we might be able to arrange some kind of a joint arrangement, especially in the Zoom era, and we can all kind of put on the agenda the Austin Way area and see if we can come up with some ideas. Jessica can write a report about it and see, have the participation of their traffic engineer, their public works department, and see what they're thinking. Mm-hmm. So that might be a way to go about it. Get us all in the same meeting.
All right. One concern I have is this is sort of my pet project, and I want to make sure that the rest of the commissioners agree that this is something we should be spending time on, because they might not.
I agree.
They're all right.
It's been it was a problem 20 years ago. It's still a problem. I personally know a couple of people that have been hit there. I know at one point Saratoga was really, they have a big biking community. They have commission too, and I know they were concerned about it. So they might be, and the people are coming down that hill in the shade from Saratoga towards the fire station, and that tends to be where they get hit. So I think Saratoga might want to be involved too. But I'm for it.
And I was going to mention, whenever there's kind of a special circumstance like this, I always go out into the world and I say, okay, Commissioner Peth, you just mentioned that it's difficult to see because they're coming down a hill fast and it's shaded, right? Is there any kind of creative ideas, a green bike lane or, a protected bike lane in that particular spot where the shade hits or something by the fire department? Is that feasible because of the fire department has to go in and out of there? And by the way, the fire department they are going to be redoing that firehouse. So we might be able to get them involved as well. With some safety
good to know.
improvements there. Yes, that is on the list of the firehouses that are getting rebuilt. But this could create a great opportunity. But go out into the world and really think about what we've seen going in downtown San Jose and on Blossom Hill Road that protected the Class 4 bike lane. Even going to, Googling things and seeing what they do in other countries in similar situations. Maybe do some homework and come up with some ideas, and maybe we can get the fire department, Los Gatos, and us in one joint meeting to discuss, the plans for that area and come up with something.
Okay.
The other thing that I wanted to mention is with Apple and their growing popularity, so much more traffic. Highway 9 is the route from Los Gatos, Saratoga, Monte Sereno, right to Apple. And many more people can be, if they will be, someday commuting via bike, could be commuting via bike. If it were safer, if it were more practical, it would entice them. So, in other words, Highway 9 is getting more use than ever.
Yep, it is.
As the Apple campus continues to grow.
So we'll keep this on the agenda as a continuing agenda item and move forward. And I think unless somebody else would like to, I think I'll try to start attending those commission meetings that Los Gatos has, just to hear what they're saying and understand better what's going on, if it's at a time that I can make.
That sounds great.
Yes, and if you are willing to do that, Commissioner Chapin, you could essentially go and just say, "Hey, Monte Sereno, I'm crossing the tracks, here to speak for 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we're thinking in this area. Let's collaborate."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because the reality is, it affects all of us together. It's a thoroughfare for all of us. And perhaps more so for Los Gatos in the sense that they have 10 times the population of us.
Yeah, that's true. I think that is the end of our unfinished business.
If you're not in a rush, still, is there any chance you can talk a little bit about what you've been doing regarding the signs in town? I'm aware of replaced some signs and added some signs, and
it's great, but we were a little out of the loop on it. At least some of us were. Any chance you could tell us about that process, and if it's done or ongoing?
So, Commissioner Chafin, your microphone was kind of crunchy. I couldn't understand a lot of what you were saying, other than your last line, which is like, is there any chance you could tell us about that process? So I have to.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly now.
I made an adjustment. The process of you were involved with, I don't know whether you personally did it or just instructed people to do it, a lot of sign improvements in town, in the city. You replaced some signs. You added some new signs, I believe, and so that was really nice. And we'd just like to hear a little bit more about how that came about, because we didn't really have any information on it.
Certainly. Thank you for the question. So when I came to Monte Sereno, and I was a big proponent of this over at Los Gatos, I felt I would be driving around the neighborhood and you'd see signs that were faded, tagged, bent, whatever, old fashioned, falling down. I would make a list, make mental notes, take pictures. I'd send them to the Public Works Department. I'd say, replace this, this, and this. Probably was responsible for replacing somewhere between 100 and 150 signs in Los Gatos. Just, and, you know, I just see them in my travels and I notice it. And I said, we had the machine over there in Los Gatos that actually made the signs. When I came to Monte Sereno, I noticed we had a number of them in pretty poor condition, faded, tagged, the same thing, bent, you name it. And I just started driving the neighborhoods and finding them and ordering the new ones and unbolting the old ones and cutting them off, doing whatever, replacing all of them. I think I've gone through about 80 signs since I've been here. There were some on Ridgecrest that we installed no parking signs. So that would include those. We installed about 12 or 13 brand new signs with the poles and everything. Most of the signs that I did replace already had existing poles. I also put up some neighborhood watch signs too. So I put up about 10 of those. But essentially the idea was, let's keep Monte Sereno beautiful. You know, we have, the roads are coming along real nice, the pavement condition. In addition to the roads, let's get those signs fixed and get that graffiti cleaned up. Vegetation, I went and trimmed all the city's trees. I don't know if you've noticed over on Winchester, we got the redwood trees trimmed up real nice over there. But there were some trees on Greenwood, there were some trees on Robin Ann Lane. A lot of vegetation at intersections where there was people couldn't see when they were turning right. I've done 2 or 3 of those. And then there were signs that were bent where people had backed a truck into them or whatever. And I would get those and pull them straight with my pickup truck. I strap a chain hoist on it and kind of bend them back. But did a lot of those kind of things, you know, remove graffiti and those type of things just to make the whole place pretty. And it's, I guess Jessica was talking to you all about kind of keeping a running inventory of the signs and the ones that still needed replacement. And I was talking to Commissioner Peth about this, and I was under the understanding that the approach that was being used was kind of bouncing each one of you all over the city. And I thought maybe a way to approach it would be if there's 5 commissioners, we divide the city into 5 pieces, and then you'll go kind of monitor those streets, or, you know, when you take your dogs walking or whatever, just walk down those streets and make notes of the signs on those streets, and we can combine our data and see what needs to be fixed next, if any are left. For me, it was like an Easter egg hunt, though. I would drive around and just say, hey, there's one. That was kind of fun. I also got to know the city very well doing it.
Well, that's wonderful. I really appreciate that.
So thank you for doing that. But did you get, because we each had a section of the city and did an inventory. I wonder if that got finished, and we inventoried each sign and logged where it was and what was needed or what was missing or what was extra.
I did not formally receive that. Engineer Khan did tell me that that was going on, and she mentioned that you were working on that, but she never provided me the list. When I first came here, she provided me an old list of some things that needed to be done, but I have not received an updated list from the results of your work yet, but I will get in touch with her and get that.
If I can
the
say
weather's
something,
great, I wouldn't mind going out and getting more done before it rains.
At our last meeting, Jessica mentioned that she had not everyone had provided her with all their data yet. So that's probably why it hadn't gotten passed on to you, Steve, before she left for her leave.
I wonder if we can find out if there's if any is missing, because I know, Barry, you volunteered and I volunteered to finish somebody's too if it needs to get done, because I think it was a real valuable inventory. So if we can...
I'd be happy to help too. I mean, I finished mine. If there's anything open, we can split it up and finish it all probably quickly.
It'd
Right.
probably be most straightforward to wait till Jessica gets back, because I'm sure she knows right where we are.
And that's fine.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for all of you to help to offering your help. It would be me and Arshi. We haven't finished. She's a senior, and as easy as it sounds, just taking a walk for a couple of hours and do it, she's just not getting the time, and she doesn't want me to finish it on my own. So we've been struggling for last 3 months for finding that time and walk around and do that. So if you can help, you don't mind, it would be great if you can finish it. Otherwise, we were planning to finish it during this holiday break when she's done with her college applications.
Maybe you could send us an email. I don't think that would violate any Brown rules of where you're at and what streets we should do. Is that a good approach, or do you want to just tell us right now?
I wouldn't be able to do that on the top of my head, but
Yeah.
I can send you an email. We haven't done many of that, just a
Mhm.
small section as of now. We did it during Thanksgiving break, but it's just always just like looking at your clock and, oh, hey, I have to get back to work and there is school and things. And it's just, she wants to be responsible and I want her to be responsible, but it's just taking a lot of time. And I really, really apologize for that.
Yeah, no problem. We
Or
understand.
If you just send us the list, I think, we could split it up and get it in.
Okay, sure. I'll do that. Thank you so much.
thing that I found that helps a lot is having kids.
We can't hear you, Barry.
My son got a
Dog, and it forced us to go out.
That's true.
That's helpful.
Add one more thing on Highway 9, just
Yes.
while we have Steve, and because he's doing such a great job with all the signs. Steve, I know I've been walking down Highway 9 and crossing at Greenwood at the light there. And I know you did a great job of replacing some of those, and I don't know what they're called, but they're the bumps that go in the curb ramps.
Yes, the braille dots.
Yeah, those are coming up at that Greenwood crosswalk. And there's also, and this is probably Caltrans, some of the lights that are embedded in the street. So on the crosswalk lights, some of
Yes.
those have been rubbed off or destroyed.
Okay. I will reach out to Caltrans. When it comes to that intersection with the rubber dots that are peeling up, one thing that we did replace 6 whole sets of them, and we poured the concrete and everything. And I think you probably all have noticed those around the city hall and towards like Lexington Street. But there were ones that were sort of still hanging on there, and we kind of nailed down the edges with concrete nails. But we'll go back and take a look at those in the interim, and then the lights, we'll have to follow up with Caltrans to see if they can get those activated again or replace the bulbs or whatever.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate all your work on that.
Sure.
Is there anything else?
If not, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
And let Steve get on to his other function. Thank you so much, Steve, for all you've done and for hosting this meeting.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure getting to know you all a little bit better, and we appreciate your service. And we look forward to the new year. We're going to get more things done.
Thanks, Steve.
And Joanne, you're not getting away from us completely.
I'm going to keep her roped in.
Okay. Well, that's it. Happy holidays to everybody. And we will be swearing in the 2 new commissioners before the 31st of December. And then we will be meeting with you. I think our next meeting is February. When is our next meeting? It's February 8th or something? I don't have the calendar in front of me.
Second Thursday of February.
But we'll make sure that we get you all noticed.
February 11th.
February 11th.
Yep.
So we'll be in touch with you then.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good evening.
You too.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Miles. So I keep getting complaints. Can I talk to you? That people can't hear me. The noise is all swirly.